Mic test 1 2 1 2. Mic test 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4. Mic check. Okay. So while we are going live, let's see. Can anyone hear me? And my internet not very good. Okay. Wait. You. Okay, so for anyone who's watching and watching later, this is when the live stream starts. Okay, so welcome to another week of City Music live stream with me, Tim. I am on the stream doing synths. Today, this microphone that I'm using, if you see, it looks like a helicopter microphone. It's a brand new product from City Music. So this is the Sotori Invictus Sotori headset. So, so if I look like I'm in a helicopter, that's because was apparently designed by a helicopter headphone designer. All right. So I can't hear anyone that's outside of me right now because that's how good the sound isolation is. Together with the microphone. Yes. So this will be the microphone that I'm using today. Hello, Kamal. Your wife says hi to you. Now say hi to her. Hey, wait. Hello. Alright, so that is Kamal Dipshit. So he is on the stream now also. He is in the comments. He is kind of involved in what I'm about to release later on. Okay, or he's not, who knows. But anyways, the main topic of today, not in accordance, that sounds so stupidly fierce. We are going to talk about recording today. So for anyone that has been following for the past 3 weeks, this is the fourth and my last stream of the year regarding synthesizers and what you can do with them, what they are, how to record. Um, so the first week, just to recap, we talked about analog synthesizers, the most OG way of using synthesis, and then the next week we talk about using digital synthesis, which is using data rather than pure electricity to make sounds and then make music. And then last week we talked about the Vocus, so small little mini synthesizers that have both analog and both digital. You can battery power them, and just so happen I have them with me now. All right, so this is the Op6, the digital synthesizer, the mini log, the analog synthesizer, and the Voca synthesizer, drum machine, rhythm machine thingy. So I have actually used each of them to make a song. So yeah, just to show not to show lah, but uh, synthesizers are not very scary things. You can do a lot of things with them. You can make music that you know, music that you're familiar with. You can make piano sounds. You can make violin sounds. But you can also go all weird and all ambient and all texture with them. All right, so you can do a lot of things in a very small unit, especially with the ones that we have, the Cog model. So these are all synthesis as a whole it transcends brand. It has been around for so long, but not to say that they are scary or hard to do lah. While you do need to learn a little bit, they are quite easy to use, or rather to get what you want. All right, so that was the last 3 weeks. So after that, you gotta think to yourself, Okay, now that I know how to do FM synthesis and I know how to do analog synthesis, you know how to do all these kind of things, you have to record them. So how do you do that? So I'm gonna get a little bit into some general ideas, some basic ideas on what to do when you want to record. Um, because that's at the end the whole point, man, to do music, to make music. You can play them live with sequences. You can record them into your recorders, be it digital or analog recorders. But you gotta know how to, and that is why that is what I'm talking about today. All right, Gerald Chung asked why last. Why last? Because City Music year end sale is coming up, guys. That's why it's almost last. In about 2 weeks' time, City Music will be having our annual year end sale. So this one I can say, done don't need hype one. Year end sale, everyone knows. So store wide discounts on almost everything, including the synthesizers that I have been showing and I'm gonna show today lah. All right. So yes, Gerald, that is why last. All right. Okay. So nobody can hear you, bro. The microphone very good. They can hear you. All right. So see, this is what happened during live stream. People come in and start shouting my name. All right. So I'm gonna get into RP presentation mode. So Bessie, okay. So you guys are my Fessies. I'm gonna show points to you. All right, recording with synthesizers. So what you need at the end of the day will be a computer, a some sort of software, then the hardware like the audio or MIDI interfaces, and then cables. I will get into them in details a little bit into detail later, but these are essentially the four components of what you need in order to start recording. You need obviously you need your synths or whatever you want to record. So you can synthesizers, instruments. We just so instead of just calling them synthesizers, let's just call them instruments. What are the instruments that you want to record? So don't think of them as some special thing that you need to have a whole category for, even though you kind of do. Um, yeah. So four very basic components. And next, computer. So on the computer, you can see I've put together two examples. One is with a MacBook, which is kind of what I used to record earlier this week. And then a Windows laptop is fine as well on the right. So I think on the right is a very basic gaming kind of setup. So the headphone plug in directly to the computer, the mouse and the speaker and everything. On the left is what you typically see on someone who's going to do all the music in the laptop. So no external instruments or nothing. Everything's gonna be in the laptop. But at its most bare of the bare bones, that is essentially what you will look like. But with a little bit more, you will also look something like this. So once you are familiar with all the different kind of recording stuff, this is basically what it's gonna look like in your bedroom. So you will have like your computer in front of you as always, some form of hardware. So it could be the keyboard, could be a MIDI controller, maybe you have a piano or like this guy on the right, a bass. Um, yeah. So and then of course the speakers at the side for you to listen back to what you're doing, or you can just wear headphones. Um, yeah. If you don't have a lot of space, actually you can just consider wearing headphones. The sound will be a little bit different, but it will kind of get the job done at a very constrained space. All right, so yeah, these two pictures is basically what it's gonna look like by the time I'm recording. Okay, so recording software. So if you think of your computer as your head, your software is basically your brain. That is the one doing all the recording. That's the one doing all the processing. That is the one that you will do all your edits on. So I know most people who want to like get into this want to have low cost. Um, you'll probably think, hey, what software can I use? I know people use Audacity as cannot hear you, bro. I tell you, use Audacity as a recorder as a recording software. You can use Audacity, but Audacity is just a recorder. So it is not a digital audio workstation, which is a very like cheap version of a recorder. So on Audacity, all you do is just recording, nothing much. You maybe cut paste here and there. Yeah, basically done. On a recording software and digital audio workstation, it's gonna you can go more in depth into editing. You can put them in whatever order you want with whatever kind of instruments, real or virtual. You can do processing. You can some even have like automatic drum machine. So if you want to do music but you don't have a drummer, you don't do your own drums. You can get that on the software as well. So some free ones are GarageBand, which is available on both Mac and iOS. It's free on board. The paid version is basically Logic Pro. It is the basically a more full version of what a GarageBand is. But the thing about GarageBand is it already like the song that I recorded is on GarageBand, so you don't lose out on a lot if you're just getting started. So it's easy to understand, it's easy to use, it's very colorful, it's very easy to see. The other two, Reaper and Pro Tools first, are what's available for Windows computer. Windows computer, you can use Reaper and Pro Tools First. They all basically do the same thing, except different software have different like priorities. So on GarageBand and Logic, I think when they came out with the software, it was just for easy understanding. So for people who want to get into them, you can use those. But if you're not using a Mac computer, you can use Reaper. Reaper is sort of the same flow as GarageBand or Logic Pro, but you don't get all the Apple stuff lah, but you still get some virtual instruments, some rhythm stuff, and some effects. Pro Tools first, you do get those as well, but it's a little bit more bare bones when it's completely free. But that's where you can get plugins. So I don't want to get into plugins, but if you come down to City Music, look at our website, look at our store, you can see we have a brand called Mackie. Mackie is a brand that does a lot of speakers. Later I'll show you the audio interface, microphones, headphones, all that kind of stuff. They also do very basic speakers, monitor speakers. They come purchase of some of the items come with free plugins. So as long as you purchase a Mackie product, they'll give you some free additional software that you can use together with Pro Tools first, so you can get started. All right, so this is the brain. So we got a head, then we got a brain. All right, so this is the general workflow of what it's gonna look like. So the DAW, that is the workstation. Workstation, that again, like I said, is a head in your brain, so it controls everything. That is your control station. It is attached to the USB of this particular audio interface. So on the audio interface, you can see two things at the bottom: a Midi keyboard controller or the synthesizer, and then a Midi sound module. So what are Midi sound modules? So on a something like this, when you see something like this, this is both your things. This is both a Midi sound module and this is your keyboard as well. This thing at the top, the Minilog XD, the analog synthesizer module, that is a Midi sound module. That is literally a Midi sound module, which I will then use another controller to control. So the keys that are on this op6 is what I use to control the Minilog. But it is by itself as an op6 as a FM synth, that is the same thing. I can use this to control the op6. I can also use this to control the Minilog. Over here, there is the MIDI in on my drum, on my vocal beats as well. This is also another MIDI sound module. This is the one producing the sound that we're gonna play the rhythm on. So this has a MIDI in. So going back to the diagram, you can see MIDI in and out. The red line and the blue line. These are your roads that you can take. MIDI in obviously is what you want to control. MIDI out is what you want to control that thing with. All right, so then of course two speakers out of the interface. So some people ask, hey, if I buy a audio interface, is it a sound card? No? Is it can I use it as a sound card? Do you have a sound card? In short, yes. So most computers and most laptops, they come with a very basic sound card. Um, or their main job is essentially to produce sound. They're not meant to be super fantastic sounding or whatever. As long as they can get you audible sound like alarm sound, notification, that's their job. That's all they do. Granted, most speakers now are quite good. Most sound cards are actually pretty decent as well, but there's still the physical limitations of what the speakers can do. So if you watch a movie or whatever through your speakers, it's fine. You're not gonna get too fantastic of sound because they are physically incapable of doing, and that is why you get a audio interface. So audio interface is gonna replace your sound card. It is a device that's much more dedicated to. You know what? Let me get one. Hi. Okay. So this thing in itself is basically an audio interface. So it's like the palm of my hands. You put it beside your computer. This big knob is gonna control the volume. So this thing is gonna give you way more volume than what your computer can give you. You can plug in professional speakers, or not even professional, just bigger speakers, better speakers that you can put onto that you can attach together, which will give you better sound. So this whole thing is essentially your sound card. You're gonna replace your sound card. It's obviously way bigger, but I mean you're comparing to a chip, lah, basically. So yeah, audio that is audio interface. When you connect, then you connect to your speakers. All right. So this is a good example of what a audio MIDI interface is. Because we're going to talk about synthesizers, we are eventually going to talk about MIDI. So the one that I'm using, that I showed you guys just now, is the Onyx Artist 1.2. The one on picture right now is the Onyx Producer 2.2. So at the front, where you plug in your audio, so like your microphone, your guitar, your I don't know, your keyboard or whatever, the audio out. You get the gain control at the side. So everything is laid out in front of you for you to give you like the best quality sound possible. More important to us today, at the back, you can see the MIDI in and out ports over here. So these two things are essentially where your synthesizers and your keyboards and controllers are going to communicate. So if you plug your headphone into a jack, there is a headphone jack and a headphone female and male jack. Over here, MIDI, it's basically data. Just think of it as data. It you can plug in whatever head to in and out is the same thing. So it's a 5-pin MIDI. I'll show you guys what the cable looks like. And the line output is where you are going to plug your speakers. How much? Um, okay, so I've linked. Hopefully, y'all can see on the stream as well. Our website and the product categories over at the comments, so you can take a look at the comment. Head on to our website and take a look at all the different products. Yeah, so for full details, you can see on our website. Thank you, Kamal. All right. So MIDI versus audio. What is the difference between MIDI and audio? So MIDI is basically data. All it is telling the computer is to come on, to turn on. It is a trigger. Like you take a computer keyboard, you plug to a computer, you press the letter A come out on your screen. That is all MIDI is. It is just a signal to tell your computer to, hey, I want this. So you can use MIDI to control drums on your computer. So everything it does is with a computer. Back then, before a computer, you can use a MIDI to control another MIDI device, which again I have done, which is I can show you guys. So this is my MIDI devices. I have a MIDI in over here and I have a MIDI out over here. What I want to do with MIDI is I want this to tell this what to do. So I out from this, in into this, so that this is my so-called master, and then this is my slave. So the MIDI ports you can see is over here. This cable over here is my MIDI cable. So it looks like this, and this is the head, basically. All right. So I go into MIDI in, and that is basically how you connect them together. Very simple. Literally just plug and play. Yeah. So that is all it does. Whereas audio is basically sound. So the sounds that you hear. According to this particular website, the principal difference is sound contains information such as frequency and amplitude, basically saying how loud or how sharp the sound is. That's what sound is. Um, so yeah, so audio is like whatever you record from a guitar, whatever you record from a keyboard, bass, drums, whatever. On the synthesizers, other than MIDI outs, there are also audio outs. So audio outs usually you'll see them in like some form of quarter inch, so it's like an instrument cable kind of size. Um, then if you want to record the sound of that particular synthesizers, which I've done so far, you will then go into an audio interface. All right. So then you can capture the sound. Otherwise, if you plug in just the maybe like a USB or a MIDI cable, all you're gonna get is just information, and there's no sound, no nothing. All right. MIDI setting. So this is another thing that is quite important, I'll say. So different softwares. Okay, when you plug your MIDI into your interface, and then into your computer, you will then have to tell your software where to find MIDI. Where do they get that information? So you go into the software of your choice. It could be like the ones I said, GarageBand. But GarageBand you can't really set the MIDI. But Logic Pro, Reaper, Pro Tools, Ableton, Studio One, all that kind of thing, they will have a Win tab under the settings. All of them will have one. So under the settings, you will see either MIDI or MIDI settings or outputs. Usually, maybe under inputs and outputs, you can find under MIDI. So that is where you tell your you tell your computer to set where do they listen out for MIDI. All right, so you can use MIDI in to get information from your interface, and then which is again from your MIDI controller. And then, or otherwise, you can use an out from the MIDI to control the time. So if you play electronic music or whatever kind of music that's very time based, you will want them to sync together. You want them to be in the correct time together. You want them to be on the same page. So in order to do that, you can use your computer as a overall master. Again, like I said, back to the example of head and brain. That is the one telling everything else what to do. So on the outputs, usually you can find them here, or you can find them at like here on this particular one. I think that's Studio One. Yeah. Um, you can use it to tell them what to do. Synchronization time, MIDI clock, controller type, like what keyboard you're using, MIDI ports, the ins and outs. Where are you going in and out from this? From a launchpad, a Novation launchpad. Yeah, you can tell them what to do. So after you have connected everything to a computer through the interface, so your controller into your interface into your computer, then you tell your computer what to do. The software under MIDI settings. All right. So this is an example of a MIDI interface. So this thing does not accept audio at all. This thing is it's an 8 port. This is also available in our store, the ESI MIDI M4U EX. So if you are not a person that does primarily audio stuff, you do more MIDI stuff like synthesizers and um uh, machines and stuff, you will most of the time you'll be using MIDI to communicate with each other. So you're not gonna record stuff lah. So that is where this thing comes in. So this thing can actually connect, for example, one keyboard and then control up to like this for this particular one, maybe up to 7 synthesizers. You will have to do settings here and there lah, like just jump here, jump there. But you can use one keyboard to control up to 7 devices, which is kind of pretty cool and pretty important. If you use like a typical audio interface, they will usually only come with one, at most two. So something like this is useful if you want to connect multiple devices together, uh, but in one place, so easy for you to access as well. All right, MIDI controllers. So examples of MIDI controllers, we have a couple. All these are also available at City Music. So on the left will be the Korg synthesizer. So One is a 25 key micro key Air. The other one is a nano key Studio. So don't care too much about the brand, but what they are essentially are very small controllers. You can use them to if you want, if you're a traveling musician, if you move around a lot, you want something that's easy for you to use. Maybe something like the Op6 is like maybe like this thing is too big. You want something small. So actually just hang on. So these ones, they are only about this size. Yeah, so like maybe 2/3 of the modular, and then this one's even smaller. So with this kind of thing, they are what we call USB MIDI devices. So they connect via USB over here. Oh, can I focus? Cannot focus. Anyways, so for very basic control, this is basically what is available. Just 25 keys, some modulation wheel, some like octave, transpose kind of stuff. Simple, nothing too much to it. Plug to your computer, you can play. If you use something like this is also 25 keys, but it's with a different kind of keyboard. You have knobs and pads. If you want to play drums or whatever, you can also just this is all in one basically. Then there's a modulation pad. So instead of a wheel, you use a pad, so you can drag, and it's more, I don't know, more intuitive, I guess. Different controls over here as well. So with a controller like this, you can either put it at your house where it's small enough for you to keep, or you can bring along to the road with you. Like this particular one also has Bluetooth. All right. So for the bigger ones, you'll be like the ones on the right. So the ones on the right are like Novation stuff. So Novation stuff you can use the full size keys. So you have 25, 37, 49, 61. So quite a wide range of keys as well. You have all the controls over there, all the knobs and faders and stuff. Those are mapped to Ableton as well. So if you happen to use Ableton as your software of choice, it's already auto mapped for you. So you don't need to worry about planning or anything. Again, plug and play. Very simple. Yeah. So you can use this to control like your virtual synthesizers. You can actually use them to control real synthesizers as well, because they have MIDI. They have MIDI at the back, so you can connect a MIDI cable, and then maybe go into a MIDI interface like this one, and then you can use to control other synthesizers like maybe the Minilog or the Op6 or the Buka Beats. All right. So uh, cables. So we get into cables. So these are the typical kind of USB cables that you'll find. Over at the most left will be USB Type A, Type B. These are the more older style of USB cables. USB Type B is what we call printer USB. I don't know why, but apparently in the time before me, it was used in a lot of fax machines, fax and printer machines. They use this kind of USB cables. USB Type A is the one I'm most familiar with. USB Type C, that's the latest one. So USB Type C is I don't know how, but it's like a more powerful version of USB. So you can give off more power, like when you charge your phone, that kind of thing. You can transmit more data at any point in time. And best of all, it can plug in into whichever orientation you want, which is amazing. You know, sometimes at night you want to like plug in you want to plug in like your phone or whatever, then you have to like, correct or not? No, walao, eh. Type C, plug it in straight away, done. Very nice. So then we have the USB Mini, Micro, and then Micro B Super Speed. I think it's super speed, but so USB Mini and Micro, these are the ones that are a little bit more recent. So you can find them on like cameras. Our camera use them as well. You can find them on some USB. Our mixer uses a USB Mini as Micro USB as well. Sometimes you a bit confusing on Micro Mini, but you plug in, you see whether you can plug in or not. Then you know it's Micro Mini really. Now Micro B Super Speed, that's the one our USB hub is using. So actually, it kind of makes sense if you want to use a lot of data at once, then you will use the micro:bit super speed. As for why audio interfaces don't use that kind of thing last time, I'm not too sure, but I think Type B is good enough for most recording at home anyways. So yeah, most obvious one, you will need a USB cable. But USB cable, they usually come with your audio interface, so you don't have to worry too much about finding them unless you want like a longer length cable or your spoil or whatever. Yeah, USB cable. MIDI cable. So this is what a MIDI cable looks like. Note the 5 pins inside each of the heads. That is necessary for MIDI to be transferred. We call it 5 DIN, the more old school way. So MIDI has been around since I think the 70s. So it's actually quite an old standard. But because it is such a simple design, almost nothing can go wrong, which is why it's been around for so long. And it's a standard on all synthesizers and now some controllers. It's been taken over by USB, because USB can give off data faster. But like I said, a lot of MIDI is less likely to fail because it is much simpler. They are gonna release a MIDI 2.0, believe it or not, after like I don't know 50 years. So it's gonna be a faster form of information transfer. So you can do a lot more things like maybe some what's the word for it? Expressions like you want to bend a key or whatever. You can't do that on synthesizer now because they are not built for that. But with MIDI 2.0, technically you can. So you can bend a note on a keyboard like you can on a guitar, which is kind of cool. But that will come out after a while, I guess. Yeah, but they are in the midst. It has been announced. I can't wait for that. Uh, so okay, MIDI to USB cable. So if you only have very little synthesizers or rather controllers and stuff, and you don't want to get audio interface, you're not gonna play guitar or sing or whatever. You're just gonna use electronic devices. Things like this is actually good for you to connect to your computer. So you just get it in and out, or rather just the in of your controller of choice, and then plug the USB in the computer. You can use it to control virtual instruments straight away. You don't need any other interface or whatever. Just go straight into the computer and you are set. I know there are some people that tell me there are like audio to quarter-inch to USB cables. I have seen some of them, but they are not very common. So and I don't think the performance is very good as well. But to each their own. But for MIDI, 100% can work. It's good. Oh, there are some places that sells like maybe like $20 MIDI to USB cable. I have bought a $20, $10 MIDI to USB cable before at Simlim. Can only say you get what you pay for because the moment I use it for like a week, it immediately spoiled. I didn't break it or anything; it just stopped working. I also don't know why. So yeah, try and not to save too much money on your cables. Your cables are quite important as well. Yeah. So yeah. Next up will be the audio cable. So audio, these are 3.5 cables. These are basically what you see on your headphones and stuff. So uh two rings is stereo, two so called TRS, one ring is for mono. So they look like this in real life. Yeah. Can focus. Yeah. So these are used for typically connections, like the Voca. They use this one for connection. They used to use it on older stuff as well, but now it's mostly just for the kind of thing lah. Then quarter-inch cables. So quarter-inch cables are again you have one ring or two ring. One ring is what we call TS. So that's for guitars, your bass, your keyboard, your whatever your instruments. Um, Simple. Just come into a store for quarter-inch cables, and the the guy helping you will probably or the girl helping you will probably know lah. For TRS, that's where it gets a little bit tricky because for some reason there is no standard for that. But what they do is they are transmitting stereo sound, so you can get a left and a right channel. The metal tip on all these kind of cables, they are actually a conductor themselves. So those are actually giving off signal as well. So with TRS, you can use it for balance. So like the third pin on the 3-pin plug is a bit cleaner sounding than like your 2-pin, something like that. So the second ring, which is also the third point, is sort of acting like your third pin in a 3-pin plug. Yeah, but sometimes you can also, if you realize on the headphones, it's for stereo, so you can use it to do stereo sound. If you realize that when you plug your cable into your device, right, like, hey, one side no sound, why so weird, that's also because you are using the wrong cables. Yeah, so make sure you get, if you want to plug like a instrument cable into the headphone out of your device, most of the time you'll probably only get one sound. If you use a stereo cable on a mono output, you can still get both because you're basically just not using the other ring. So you need to make sure your cable is correct. Make sure that you have the correct one lah. All right, so that's it for the very, very information dense PowerPoint. So with all that said, with all the synthesizer into keyboard, into interface, into keyboard, into all that kind of stuff, what example have I done? So thanks to Lionel for lending me his computer. This is essentially what it will look like after you are recording, or while you are recording or done recording. So on this kind of, I'm using GarageBand. So I recorded everything on GarageBand. I use the Minilog, I use the Op6, I use the vocal beats. Hopefully y'all can see on your screens what I've labeled. So there are, I have the Op6, I have the vocal beats, I have the hi-hat specifically, and all that kind of stuff. So before you launch anything, most of the time you have to just go into add a track. Then the software will ask you, you want to add an audio track, you want to add a MIDI track, or because GarageBand have M simulators, they also have like AI drummers, so you can choose whatever you want. For me specifically, for the synthesizers, because I want the sounds of those things, I go into audio recording. So audio recording, they'll ask me where I want to go, what track do I want to use. On this particular one, I'm plugged into my L8, so the L8 was what I use as my interface. For those who don't know what an L8 is, it is a mixer slash audio interface. You can also find them on our City Music website. Yeah, so I use that to create the track. So the first thing I did, I'm gonna delete this first. First thing I did was use the Op6. So on the Op6, let me solo this track. This is what I plugged into and then recorded. Hopefully all of you can hear this. So it's like some, I basically, all I did was just turn on the arpeggiator and let the thing play by itself. But I added like some effects, some very heavy effects into the thing. Alright, so after I used that Op6, Kamal, or rather someone, he doesn't want to claim credit for this. This is the main bulk of the song. So we plug the Op6, the audio out into the L8, and then we went to, this is number 9. So number 9 on my Op6, don't know if you can see, it's called Punchy Wire Piano. This is what it sounds like. Yeah, so that is the Punchy Wire Piano that someone played, and this is what it sounds like on a recording. Alright, does it sound good, guys? So all the sounds we hear at the back, they are all from the Op6. I think there was some, I think I added a filter at the back to do that sound at the background, just for a little like movement kind of stuff. All right, so that is the Op6, and then just for additional texture and sound effects, this was also on the Op6 as well. So we use the op6 on number 69 on the preset. It's called LFO Grooves. So I think it sounds like this. I think higher octave. Yeah, so this is from the op6 itself. I don't think we did much to this particular sound except for giving it reverb. Yeah, so for those that remember, the op6 is a digital synthesizer, so we use it for a lot of that sparkly kind of piano-like kind of sound, because that's what digital synthesis is most famous for. So I chose this to do that. That's the best job for this. So yes, that is the op6. And then after that, I did the beats. So for a live sound, this is what the beat sounds like. So it started out from this rhythm, from this groove. I was thinking of, I think, Phil Collins or something. So it was just a sequence in the thing, then added some kick drum for a little bit of weight on the downbeat. And then I added the clap. So this is just sequence on the thing, and then the hi-hat. Alright, so that is what it sounded like on the vocal beats before I did anything. And this is what the beat sounds like. So quite similar, but all I did was add, again, more ambience to the thing. I'll show you what it looks like. At the end of the day, all I did was added compression, boosted the EQ on the treble a little bit. Yeah. So this is what it sounds like on the song. Then after that, we added some hi-hats, which honestly isn't really a lot, but yeah. Yeah, so this is the main rhythm of the song. It sounds a little bit Caribbean-ish by itself, but later you'll see what happened. So that is on the beat. So I've gotten the rhythm down, I've gotten the melody down, I've gotten the harmony down, like the chords and all that kind of stuff. So next up would be like, what do I do with the bass? What do I do with the bass, and what do I do with the like overall vibe? And that is where the mini log comes in. So the mini log, let's see, I went to number 86, which is my thick bass. You would think they'll give me some other kind of name, but nope, it is just thick bass. I went into and then that is what it sounds like on the song. Oh, sorry, I need to show. Yeah, so I use this. So now I'm using this controller to control the midi log. So I just hit C. That is a little bit of Sean Paul for you guys. So this is what it sounds like on the track. So quite simple. Because at the end of the day, when you put a lot of simple things together, then it starts to sound more than the sum of its parts. If you get a little bit too complicated, sometimes you're just like forcing yourself into a certain kind of style. Yeah. So relatively simple bass line, just a lot on the note itself. And then I used the mini log to do some ambience. So this is number 6. No, wrong one. 167. So on my 167 on my mini log, it is. Let me show you this. 167. 167 is called pulse width modulator, and this is what it sounds like. Yeah. So I filtered the thing a little bit, so I turned the cut off, give it a little bit of resonance, and that is what it sounds like by itself. On the track, which I then recorded into my L8 via the audio out. This is what it sounds like. So you get some movement, some grooves. I'm only basically playing one note. So it's to give off this very atmospheric, to set the whole song in this particular key, basically. Alright, so as the main element of all the songs, they are the synthesizers. So with the sum of all its parts, I arranged it a little bit, colleagues helped a bit as well. So all this again was done straight from the keyboards, rather from the synthesizers. All of this audio out into my L8, which is something like this. Go audio in. The Midi, um, which is not here. The Midi was not particularly used in this chance, but I just wanted to show you guys what it's like to use synthesizers to make music. All right, so after I've done all the synthesizer parts, I decided to get my hand itchy and play guitar. The guitar sounds are again taken straight from the GarageBand itself. So they are simulators. I've used three different tracks for the guitars. Two clean sounds and then one with a little bit of dirt. So I did a quick and fast solo on this. Not to say I play fast, but the whole process was fast. To get a rough idea, so you can have like a very strong main melody to follow. There is no name for this song at the moment, but feel free to put in the comments what you want it to sound like, or rather what you want the name to be. All right, so with everything that I've said, with everything that is done, the synthesizer and everything, I'm going to audio interface, going to GarageBand, which is free, and then added in a guitar straight into my interface mixer, or going into the guitar simulators. This is what the song sounds like. Hope you guys enjoy. I'm gonna let this flow while y'all listen as well. All right, let's go. All right, so that is the song. I think I spent 2 to 3 days on this. Just think about like what to play, how to play it, what kind of sounds to choose, because there are so many presets available on all these kind of thing. All right, so I hope today has been a little bit more informative about like what you can do with synthesizers, digital synthesis, FM synthesis, analog synthesis, mini rhythm machines, how you can hook all of them up with what kind of cables you need into what kind of place to put them into, and then you can make a, I would say a pretty decent song. I hope it's a pretty decent song, on a completely free software, um, that you can chop everything together, make it sound nice, add effects, and that kind of stuff. Um, or yeah, so it's not a foreign machine. A synthesizer is not like something out of this alien world. It is something that we all know, we are all familiar with. We have heard it in any song that we've ever heard since, I don't know, when pop music or rock or whichever came out. But now they have the benefit of being small, relatively small, accessible, affordable, um, and basically just fun to play. Lah. If you've ever seen any artists like those behind the scenes studio, you will notice at least a couple of them in the background. Cork, I don't want to be biased, but Cork is usually one of the more prominent one. It could be the mini log, it could be the up six a little bit, but people usually have the older Yamaha DX7, that kind of stuff. So you notice at least one or two scenes behind, if you see any behind the scenes of your favorite artist studio, because they are that useful. You can do something familiar, you can do something strange, you can do, I don't know, whatever sound is in your head. Yeah, so hope these past 4 weeks, these 3 weeks have been helpful. Share this with your friends. If you think your friends getting interested in synthesizers, but they don't know where to start or how to start, just show them this video, link this video to them, and then of course this final video but if hopefully by the time you see this, share this with your friend, so that they can understand a little bit better about synthesizers, but you don't have to explain to them. Yeah. If you find that whatever I say is useful, you can share this with them. If you think it's not, then share it anyways. Yeah, so hopefully it has been a little bit eye-opening, a little bit easier for you to understand this time. At the end of the day, just record music. That is what we all want to do. That is what we are all in here for. Make music. It could be with a synthesizer, with a guitar, with a piano, or whichever. It's your choice. But synthesizers are very, very fun. They can do all the things that all those instruments can't do. They offer up a whole, quite literally, a world of sounds. If you see any movie or whichever, all the funny kind of sounds that you don't know, you can think, hey, it sounds a little bit like this, but actually it's not. They probably came from a synthesizer, or if they are not done by Foley, but so then they are probably done on a synthesizer. All right. So, all right, whoever is watching, left there is watching. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Um, I have been Tim. Just to reiterate, the year-end sale is coming up in a couple of weeks' time, in 2 weeks' time actually. So if you have seen this video, you think that you are interested, you want to try them, you are more than welcome to come and try. And if anything, it's the best time of the month to start shopping at City Music. Pick out maybe an audio interface if you have to go into a computer. We don't sell computer unfortunately, but we do have interfaces. We have the cables, we have the instruments, we have the keyboards, we have the controllers, we have all that kind of stuff. If this video has been, if anything, I hope it has been a guide to help you set up and make your own music. All right, so how's the sound on the headphone? If the headphone sound is good, very nice. It's quite comfortable. The sound is also pretty good. I would say now I'm listening live. I don't know about through the internet. Yeah, this is also available. This is the Soto headphone. Quite nice. Yeah. So yeah, this is the last week of my series. Hopefully you guys have had fun. Shout out to Benjamin. I know you're watching this. Let your students watch you. All right. This has been Tim. This has been City Music. Adios, amigos. Hey.